Hey, this is Ralph, and of course we're still working on our Columbia nav menu. So where we left off, we just really got the, I think, mostly satisfied with the main submenu. We've got our horizontal menu, of course, going across the top. That's always visible. And then this main submenu, which is only going to be visible when somebody hovers over a particular category. Right now we're pretending it's footwear. And then we got this menu to display. A couple quick things I'm going to fix up here. Background color of white is currently set on the submenu, which is the whole thing. Don't really need that. I'm going to put it on the unordered list, which is just this left portion here. There we go. The end result is exactly the same, but I just liked the logic behind having the visible background color on the visible portion of that submenu. All right, let's go ahead and put in those little triangles. A couple of ways we could do this, but we just very recently in class played around with using content and before and after pseudo elements. I think we can do that here. In order to get this to work, jump over to my symbols. We need a little right pointing triangle. I know they have them. In fact, it's on this big list somewhere down here. There we go. So this is how we can, and we'll use a little right pointing triangle. And this over here is the CSS code for it, \25b6. Okay, so I'll just come back to that in a moment. So I want these little triangles off to the side. Now this is going to be, let's look at our HTML. This is going to be where we have winter sale and stuff like that. So do we put it within the anchor or within the list item? In theory, it shouldn't matter. But let's do it, let's control it with the anchor. And so basically after the anchor, we can put that little triangle in there. Now we don't have to do it in the HTML though. I'm trying to minimize that. We certainly could, but we want to do this with CSS. All right, but that's what we're going to manipulate, the anchor within the submenu. And we already have a rule like that, but this rule is going to be a little bit different. Let's see. Actually, I'll copy this part. And I'm going to stick it down here. After. All right. Content is going to be \25b6. And without doing too much, oh, look at that. That gets us there. Now these anchors, I want to do a little positioning. So let's see, are my anchors already positioned? They are not. All right, position relative on those, which will now allow us to do a position absolute here. Let's start off with right 0 pixels and top 0 pixels. Ooh, that's pretty good. Gets us all the way over there. I like that a lot. And, oh, that's true. I still have my picture over here. So in the picture, we can kind of see, all right, obviously they don't need to be that far to the right, so I need to move them over a little bit. It's hard to tell where they are height-wise. So I think what I will do in the short term, let's go to those anchors, and let's slap another border on there, temporary, of course. Because if we can see that border, ooh, they actually look pretty good there height-wise. Okay, so it looks like we won't have to shift that top around, but of course the right we can move that over. Let's try 8 pixels. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Border has done its job. Now, here's an issue we're going to have. Not every menu item gets, or not every submenu item gets another submenu. So we can see winter sale and new arrivals don't have those, which means we got to fix that up. So let's see, on the HTML, this part I will do in the HTML. Class equals no sub. Class equals no sub. So some of these anchors are going to be special. And on the CSS, I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this. There we go. And this is going to be my anchor dot no sub. Notice there's no spaces in here. It looks a little weird, doesn't it? Anchor dot no sub colon after the content. We don't want that little triangle, so let's just do an empty set of quotes. I think we can leave position the way it is. Oh, look, they're gone. So perfect. That's good. Now I also noticed too, winter sale, occasionally these menu items, they're going to have a some red submenu items in there. So let's account for that too. Winter sale is going to have two classes, no sub, and it's going to have special. So if you're going to apply more than one class, no big deal. You just put in the classes separated by a space. That's easy enough. And then we just have to make sure I'm just going to copy this for a moment. And yeah, I'll stick it down here. That's fine. But of course, this is going to be a dot special. And the other thing is, its color, it's red. 900. There we go. You can see that winter sale change. Make it a little brighter. A00, and that's about it. Oh yeah, one other easy thing to do that I think will help, and it's actually have a little bit of a box shadow on this submenu to help it pop a bit. That's easy. So let's see, that's going to be our submenu right there. And I'm going to do 2 pixels, 2 pixels. That's the X offset and the Y offset. So this shadow is going to be to the right and downward. I'm going to make it a little bit blurry. How about 4 pixels, 5 pixels? Ooh. All right, just a little bit, and that's probably a little bit blurry than what they have, but good enough. It does really help it pop a little bit, I think, on whatever background image is, which is kind of important because remember on the Real Columbia site, this image is video and it's changing. You want to make sure that submenu stands out. Okay, now for the real focus of this particular video, and that's the submenu 2. And that's going to require a little bit of setup in our HTML. So let's head over to the real site, footwear, and I'll play on men's shoes. and take a screen capture of this. Open in my image editor. There we go. Yeah, so that's our focus there. So let me just move that. Oops, didn't want to maximize it. All right, so that's what I have. Let's head over to the HTML side of things. Now this is going to be within men's shoes. So I go to my men's shoes area, which is right up here. After the closing anchor tag, but before the closing list item, I'm going to give myself room to work. And this time, there's only one chunk. It's an unordered list, so we don't have to go too fancy with this. So it's going to be a complete unordered list. And then I want to get rid of all this extra space. Let me just, oops, don't get too carried away there. Come on, there it is. Okay, so just so you can see this, we have a complete unordered list within the list item of the submenu item, in this case men's shoes. So after the closing anchor tag, but before the closing list item. And let's see, I'm going to put a class on this. And this is going to be submenu 2. Okay, so that's submenu 2, and I need some list items inside. All right, quit scrolling over there. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to have li with an anchor times 9. Okay, give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and put in the text for these items. Okay, I'm back. Got all that text in there. I'm going to take this picture and move it off to my other screen so I can still see it. Let's go to our page, and basically what we need to have happen now is this needs to be styled, the submenu 2, to show up over here on the right. I think the HTML is good for now, not that we won't have to come back for something. Let's head over here, and let's see. I think my anchors for that submenu. See if I can find it here. Cool, there is already a position relative on them, which I think is going to be pretty good. Now, remember though, our submenu 2 is not a child of the anchor. It's adjacent to the anchor. It's a sibling. That's going to factor into our CSS. Submenu 2 is adjacent to the anchor of submenu 1, let's say. Okay. Well, let's get to work on this. Now, submenu 2. Let's look at it for a moment. It's got that class, which makes things pretty convenient. I'm going to put a border on it so we can visualize it. All right, looks good. I can see that red border on there. Let's go ahead and list style type. Let's get rid of the bullets. Okay, so let's try this out. Position absolute, left 0 pixels, top 0 pixels. All right, I think that can work. Now we happen to know how wide this is. This is 375 pixels wide, if I recall. So 375 pixels from the left. That may have actually worked. We don't see it anymore, but I think I've got a little positioning layering issue going on. Let's try this real quick. Z-index 4. There it is. What's the background color of this thing supposed to be? Ah, light gray. Okay, I like it. Let's use some stuff up here. And I guess we can, another row. How wide should it be? It should be the full width, it looks like. What should the height be, though? Notice on the picture, it doesn't quite take up the full height. I noticed that with the others as well. Now, we happen to know what the height is. I forgot the number. I'm sure I must have it on here somewhere. We could just do a trial and error. We could do something like 1%, I guess, which is going to be pretty stable because the parent is a known height. Cool. Let's get rid of that red border. It served its purpose. That looks good. Now, I know we still have to style those anchors and stuff inside, but for this illusion to really work, and so we can see the connection between the submenu item, men's shoes, related to submenu 2, we want men's shoes to have that gray coloring on there as well when we're hovering over it. So let's see. I'm going to try this way. And in fact, I guess I'll put it right down here. Let's see, we've got our submenu, which is an unordered list, child list item colon hover. Let's try this. This may not be right though. Background color, light gray. Now we can't see that though because the anchor's got that white background color. So let's see, can we do this though? When I hover over the list item, the anchor inside of it has a background color of light gray. It's still not working. Let's make sure I've got my HTML right. Submenu is the nav, and I need to reference that unordered list in there. So submenu is a nav, child unordered list. That's pretty good. Did you catch that issue? Because when I didn't have that unordered list in there, basically I'm indicating that a list item is a direct child of the submenu, which is not the case, of course, because the submenu is a nav, not an unordered list. So that's an important thing to remember. That's why it's good to reference that HTML from time to time. And I probably should have been a little simpler, but let's put that back. I think that's pretty good. I still don't think I could have just done that though, because the anchor Oh, then again, what do I know? Well, let's make sure I'm refreshed. All right, looks like that is going to work, so I'm okay with that. That's true, the white is coming from a different background color. I thought my anchor tags were white, but maybe they're not. Otherwise, I think that's pretty good. All right, let's spend some time styling that submenu too. Shouldn't be too tough, it looks like. Clearly the text is black. Let's move that off to the side here. No text decoration, play around with the padding. And it looks like pretty much sock should fill up all the way, almost all the way down, so a big chunk of the space. Now these are our anchors, so we can do unordered list, submenu 2, space anchor. These are the only anchor descendants of the submenu 2, just so you can see. Background color, orange. There we go. So we know that's working. All right, looking at my picture here, definitely text decoration none, and color black, font family Verdana, looks pretty good. Let's see. Ooh, I bet we need to make these into blocks so they're all the way across. Display as block, and then let's set a height of 20 pixels and 40 pixels. Ooh, too much. 30 pixels. Pretty darn good. I like it. And let's do a line height of about 28 pixels. Yeah, seems fine. And text indent, 10 pixels. 18 pixels. Let's look at my picture. Yeah. And let's do 0.9M font size. I like it. Do we get a little underline effect on hover? Men shoes. Yep, little underline on hover. Let's take care of that. Submenu 2, space A colon hover, text decoration none. All right, and let's make sure I'm refreshed. That's because I don't want text decoration none, I want text decoration underline. There we go, now we're getting those underlines showing up. Well, I'm pretty darn happy with that. You know what? Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, we're only 20 minutes in here. We're doing pretty good. Let's see if we can go ahead and do the hover effects. Remember, I'm going to do the R's when we hover over the main menu item and the submenu. When we hover over the submenu, then the submenu 2 shows up, as opposed to a click action. But I think we've got the hardest part done. So how would this work? Well, basically submenu 2, ultimately, bear with me here, display none. Look, it goes away. However, I want that submenu 2 to show back up when I hover over the adjacent anchor, list item, the anchor. Yeah, so the anchor is adjacent to that submenu 2. We can handle that. So let's do this right after it here. Let's see. Ooh, could we just, is it really this easy? A plus submenu 2, display block, no, because of course we need a hover, A colon hover, submenu 2. Wow. That was easier. I think before when I did this, I did a big long, because I was trying to reference all of those details. So for instance, I'd had, all of this stuff. And I know you may find this irritating, and you don't necessarily have to do this for yourself, but I'm going to copy all that. Paste it right there. And I know it makes this thing stupid long, but I just really want it to be clear what I'm hovering over. So now when I hover over men's shoes, that submenu shows up. Oh, we got to fix that. You see how when I hover over men's shoes, how that disappears? That's a pretty easy fix to make. There's that earlier video that I wanted you to watch on the basics of making submenus and stuff, which I think I'm going to recreate that after the fact that we're doing here. But you probably have already watched it. And so we can't base this off of hovering over the anchor tag, because the anchor tag is a very finite space, and when I'm not hovering over it anymore, we lose that submenu. So I think I'm going to tweak this. What happens if instead we hover over the list item, which is the parent of the anchor? Oh yeah, much better, see? So I can hover over the list item, which is the parent of the anchor. Now, the reason this is working is because remember, the list item is much bigger than we think. The list item here for men's shoes is accommodating this entire submenu over here. Now, I can't hover. Let's see if I go off that. As long as I stay in the gray, I think I'm good. So that's why that's, oh, excellent. All right, so that's seeming pretty nice there. What about this main menu? We can do something probably similar for that, right? So let's see, that's going to be our submenu. Let's find it. Ah, here we go. There's the submenu. Display none. Goes away. Okay, now what am I going to hover over for that submenu? So the submenu, notice, is a nav. However, I should still be able to do a hover on the list item. Hover on the list item, but notice submenu is a child of that list item. Okay. So that's display none, and I guess I'll do it right here. Main nav, unordered list item, child unordered list, child list item, hover, and then I should just be able to do dot submenu after that, because that's what we did display none for. Display block. Now I did this on footwear. Oh, that's not so good. So it's not the submenu that I need to display, it looks like. Actually, it should be that though, right? Oh, I think I know what I did wrong. Check this out. My submenu is display flex. So it already had a display property. So let's get rid of that one. Display flex becomes display none on the submenu, but on the hover state, we want to do a display flex because it's a flex parent. Footwear. Cool, we get our options. Of course, men's shoes is what I want. And then there are those. Pretty darn neat. Now, I think I'm going to be leaving you pretty soon to finish this up on your own, but there's one more little tricky aspect that I'd like to cover with you. I left something out, something very pointy. Notice, it's hard to tell with my mouse there, but there's a little white triangle underneath each main menu item, which kind of points to it. Interesting. So let's take care of that together. And then we'll do some copying and pasting, and then maybe I'll ask you to maybe enhance the drop-down effect, but I'm not too worried about that part. If you didn't do it, that'd be perfectly fine with me, because I know you're going to get some transition experience if you're doing this extra credit. But yeah, let's see what we can do with that little triangle. Now, we have to keep this in mind. Now, the little triangle can't be based off of the submenu, because you notice it's in different parts. The little triangle instead should be based off of the main anchors or list items of that main menu. So basically, let's play around. There's men right there. So the little triangle needs to be somewhere in here. Now, whenever you're faced with this new challenge, it's good. Rely on something that you've done before. Now, what we did before was we played around with a little triangle. Where's it at? There's an up triangle somewhere. Here it is, 25B2. So let's see what we can do with that. This is going to be on the anchor within my main nav there. Let's see. That's a good spot for it. I'll do it right here. Main nav, child unordered list, child list item, child anchor, : after. Now I'm going to need to be positioning. Is there already a position on this anchor? There is not. So I might add one. That could cause a problem, but we'll see. So let's see. After the content is going to be, what's it going to be? Up arrow is \25B2. Oops. Okay, let's see how that's looking. All right, well, we're getting little triangles, that's for sure. And if I just did position absolute right now, and I did something like left 0 pixels, bottom 0 pixels, what does that do for us? Okay, now notice this. You can only see it right up here, and that's because it's positioning those little triangles not based on the anchor, but based on whatever the next position relative is. So if I went to this anchor, remember you position absolutely within another positioned item, usually position relative. So the anchors don't have position relative. So what happens if I add that? Ooh, all right, we can work with this. Now the little triangles are not nearly close to where I want them to be. However, they're all in a consistent spot, which means we can manipulate them with our positioning controls of left and bottom. And we know these anchors have a limited height, 90 pixels, if I recall, and we know their widths are have some boundaries, so that we can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to, once again, temporary border here. And let's do an outline. So we can see where those anchors are. All right. You can't see the bottom edges just because they're beneath that hero graphic. All right, cool. So now let's position those little baby triangles. Now from the left, I'm going to go 50% from the left. All right. So they're roughly centered, but not exactly centered. Most of you probably know, when we position something to the left, like 50% like that, it bases it on its point of origin there on the left side. So I'm also going to do a transform, translate x -50%, which is the width of the little triangle, and that's going to get it horizontally centered. It's hard to tell. I can kind of tell by looking, but trust me, those little triangles are horizontally centered. I realize though, before I get too focused on messing with these are kind of big little triangles. So before I get too precise with positioning them, I should get them to a size that I'm satisfied with. So I'll do that up here. What if I just set the width to like 20 pixels? What does that do? Does absolutely nothing. Hey, what if I did this? Transform scale 2. It doesn't do anything either. That's a bummer. Oh, it's because I already have transform set up, maybe? Let's see. I can't remember if I do a comma or a space there. Ooh, that worked. Okay, so with transform, if you're going to use multiple values, then you just put them in there, just separated by a space. So actually, 2 bigger than normal might be pretty darn okay. Those are pretty big triangles. It doesn't show up in my recording, but my mouse is really big and it covers up, so it's hard for me to see. Maybe it's a... And you could do something, close, but not quite. You could do like 1.8. That would work. Maybe not. Maybe I'm lying to you. Now I'm screwed up and I got rid of my E in scale. Oh, geez. Oh, I put an E over there. All right. I think that's good. All right, let's go with that. How far from the bottom do we want? Well, I need to move them downward from the bottom. Could be doing this from the top, right? Check this out. No, let's keep it from the bottom. I'll just play trial and error. If I want to move down, though, it has to be a negative number. Down 30 pixels. Pretty darn close. Down 34 pixels. Looks pretty good. Now, we want this to look good, of course, when I hover over footwear. And in fact, it's probably going to be fine. Remember, you're not going to see multiple triangles at once. You're only going to see one triangle at once. We got to fix that, of course. And the triangle's not supposed to change to gray. Actually, it doesn't change to gray, does it? No, the little triangle stays white. Okay, so no problem. I'll go to footwear. Yeah, so I think the triangle's in a pretty good spot. We just want to make sure that the color of that triangle doesn't change. So I think, let's see if we can do it here. Color white. All right, that works. Notice the even though the text footwear goes to gray, the triangle stays white. That's pretty good. Now, once again, we only want these triangles to appear in a certain situation. So, and that's going to be when I'm hovering. So let's, when I'm hovering over the list item, let's see how that works. Okay, they go away. And look at that, now the little triangles are showing up. I know you're thinking, hey, Ralph, they're showing up for everything, but that's all right, because all of these are going to have a submenu. But it's doing what we want. Let me get rid of that red outline. Don't need that anymore. Yeah, I think we're about done with this phase of the assignment, the hardest part for sure. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. We can go to footwear, click on those drop downs. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, and what if this was a bigger scale menu? Obviously it is, meaning more stuff. Well, we just did it for footwear, but oh, it's going to be so easy now. Now what I'm going to do is let me maximize this for a moment. I'm going to zoom out just for a bit. So when you want to do this phase, you're really happy with how your menus are looking. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to footwear. I'm going right after the closing anchor tag, and I'm going to select all the way down to the closing nav, which is in front of the closing list item. Here's how I'll know this is proper. If I were to Control X to cut, notice I've completely gotten rid of that submenu. It's gone. Cut, copy, Control V as in Victor to paste. I'll put it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that exact same menu. I'm going to put my insertion point right after the closing A for men, Control V as in Victor to paste. Right after the closing anchor tag for women. Oh, no. There it is. Right after the closing anchor tag for women, Control V as in Victor. Right after the closing anchor tag for kids, V as in Victor. Right after closing anchor tag for activity. Right after the closing anchor tag for featured. Right after the closing anchor tag for winter sale. It's a bunch of pasting. Control S to save, even though I've got auto save on. Now, look at this. I can go to men and I can see, oops, I can only see men's shoes. We got to do some more copying. Oh man, should I have? This would have been easier if I'd done all the sub menus first, right? I take it back. Okay, well, you'll get the idea. Let's see. Let's just pick on men's shoes, though. So I'm going to go to men's shoes. I'm going to select right after the closing anchor tag. And I'm going to go all the way to the closing unordered list just before the closing list item. Control C to copy. Now that's actually... Yeah, that's what I want. I'm going to copy that. Control-C to copy again, just in case I screwed it up. Now, of course, new arrivals and winter sale doesn't have a submenu 2. But women's shoes, right after the closing anchor, paste. Kids' shoes, right after the closing anchor, paste. Collections, right after the closing anchor, paste. So when you're doing this on your own, just do one at a time. Just do a paste and then go check it out and see if it shows up. Control-S to save. Back over here. Whew. All right, now I should be able to go to men, and of course there's different menu items. Women. Kids. Here's where we'll really see it. If I go to footwear, now I should be able to go to men's shoes. There's men's shoes options. And I go to women's shoes. Oh, I'm not getting my women's shoes showing up. Did I do it? Which one did I do it for? I did it for shoes. Oh, you know. I am not under footwear. Whew. It must be time for me to take a nap. I am under the winter sale category. Winter sale. Men's shoes, women's shoes. All right, those are working. Now, of course, it would look a little bit more cooler if I had a bunch of different categories. I'm not going to ask you to go do that necessarily. Maybe doing a few of them might be kind of neat because then you'll really appreciate the differences. Oh, that's right. These are on click. So you see those, how those change a little bit. But that's a lot of tedious typing, so don't feel like you won't get full credit if you skip that part. Okay, winter sale is where I've got all my little submenus working. Okay, so definitely would have been better for me to copy all those submenus first and take care of that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here. Looks like we're getting almost to near 40 minutes, which is cool. And I think this would be a really good finish state. If you would like to, only if you'd like to go a little bit further, you could experiment with a little bit of animation. And now it's a little bit tricky, you know. I don't think I still have mine open. I can open it up easy enough, I guess. Let's go to number 3. Okay, so here's mine. And you notice it's just got that little, it's a really quick opacity change. And that's about it. So, yeah, so you could play around with those if you want to. However, I'm pretty confident you'll get that experience nicely on the extra credit portion. So that's the original. Let's head back over to the version we just did. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to call that phase done. However, probably not done completely with this series because I do want to do some quick styling to the search box over there on the far right, and I'd like to get that drop-down menu too. But we are now approaching Sunday afternoon. I also want to get the basic concept beginner video to doing drop-down menus and multi-level menus and things like that. But thanks a lot for hanging out with me. I hope this went well for you. And yeah, experiment, try different things. I definitely tried some new stuff using these little entities for the little triangles. I think was a pretty smart, efficient way to go. So I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, keep working on this kind of stuff. So take care of that assignment. And obviously, if you're doing the extra credit part, little icons up there, font awesome, then do that. And I'll catch you in the next video.